Hey all, it's Denise and it's Monday afternoon and I'm just finishing up a video that takes one of my journal pages and turns it into a painting. And I'm kind of excited about this because I'm doing it along with my friend Kelly Boyer of Book and Paper Arts. Kelly is over in the UK, in Wales actually, and I've been a follower of hers for a long time. We met each other through Instagram several years back, pre-COVID years back, when we were both brunettes way back then. And she's out traveling the world, and invited me to be a guest artist on her channel, so I did that. I created a journal page with a piece of art, and in this video I'm taking that journal page and turning it into a piece of art. So with that being said, in the description below I will put a link to Kelly's YouTube channel, which you're going to want to check out if you like art journaling, if you love altered books. Kelly is just a master at it. So I'm really honored that she invited me to hang out over on her channel. And with that being said, take a look at what we got for you. Bye. Okay, so I think this orientation works pretty good. I've got some copper going on here, and this is all orange on the top and more of a muted color on the bottom. So let me set that over there so I have a guide to go by. And I'm just setting up a small palette, and I'm doing my palette with blue paper towel, wet blue paper towel. And then I take a piece of tracing paper, and I use tracing paper rather than palette paper because it doesn't have a layer of the gloss on it, and the water can soak through, and that's what's going to keep your paint wet from the bottom. I'm using a deep red here, a little bit of deep red, and I'm doing a little bit of Indian yellow. And I've got some parchment. So what I want to do to start with is just give myself a base for the orange flowers. And actually, the orange flowers have a lot of colors going on around them. It's got that deep red. Actually, I should pull some of that alizarin out. And I just want to create the feeling of flowers. Let me get out I have a little alizarin here. Okay, I'm just taking some of the orange, just mixing colors just to create a little bit of interest. A little bit of background. I can come back to it. I'm just creating some colors underneath of where I'm actually going to put flowers. Being really loose with it, but I want to make sure I get it strong enough so that when I come back over, I have some strong colors to work with. And some variations. Because I'll be negative painting around and creating my flowers with negative painting. So I can just go back and forth with colors and just have fun with it. Don't get too, you're just creating a background. You're not really creating the flowers yet. Right there. It doesn't really matter that it's exact. come down a little bit, create this flower right here, kind of like a little bit of that turquoise showing up behind, but I can always go back in and add that. I have some lighter flowers down here. So there you go. That's a good start. I want to find my design here. So I think this is a great place. Well, maybe not. I was going to say this is a great place to do the top of my vase, but it's kind of right in the middle. So I'm going to raise the vase up just a little bit, and I'm going to sketch that in. And never to be one to worry about whether I have the painting right in the middle. I very often do my flowers right in the middle. So I'm using my Stabilo and just getting some lines in of where I want. That could be, actually let me drop my table a little bit. That's going to be the line of my table. Here's my vase. The bottom of my vase. And maybe this is a good spot to have my water line. So I've got that. I can take just my wet paintbrush and scribble out that Stabilo line. And kind of darken it. I like that. Very loose. I'm staying very loose with all this. Okay, so you can already see it coming to life. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, while I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm going to go and add some, these are acrylic inks. I'm going to create a little bit of green up in this area, and I want to cover my the paper, the margins, the edge of my paper. And I want to make sure I have some green happening in. You can see some of the green I have happening in the stems. Now I might be better off going back and adding this later. This is the part where you can just go and have fun. Well, all of it's parts where you can go have fun. And then my favorite new color. This is Silver Moss. And I really, really love this. It's kind of got a metallic to it. Let me get it shaken up. Okay, I've made a lovely mess. Okay, so I'm back the next day. Next day, I worked on initially getting this piece of paper set up and ready to recreate my sketchbook page. And I just want to point out that my canvas or my palette that I used the blue paper towel with tracing paper over it, that's what I used to mix my colors yesterday. And this is today. It's probably about, let me see, like 18 hours. 18 hours? I worked on these at 4 o'clock yesterday. So 4 o'clock, that's 12, 13, 14, 15. It's been about 18 hours since I worked on that. And look how wet my paint, my acrylic paints still are. These, of course, are dry because they were smushed out. But all the colors that were left thick are still wet, because this palette will keep your acrylic paints wet. It wets them from underneath. So blue paper towel, tracing paper, best way to go. Now let's get back to it. I think I'm going to work on my tabletop right now. On this bottom portion of the painting. Okay, now I'm pulling out my Nova colors. I need some darker colors right in there. Right in here. Now, negative painting. First, I want to go in and I want to establish where the edge of my vase is. And I can come back over this with a heavier bodied paint. But right now, I just kind of want to get things filled in so I know, blocked in so I know what is going where. Now, this is my lighter side. I'm going to pretend the light is coming from this direction. And I like to just play and go back and forth with my paint until I get a color that is working for me. Now my color on this side is going to be darker. Put a little bit of this green in here, inside the vase as well. I don't mind these irregular colors showing up underneath. That kind of, it definitely adds some history to the piece. Now I'm gonna let this be light, coming back from behind the vase, because the light will hit back behind the vase. When you look through the glass, the colors are gonna be a little bit darker, because you're looking through glass and you're looking through water. And the glass is also going to distort where the shapes are. And also this way I can create the stems of the flowers coming in. Rather than paint them in, I can paint around them and create them that way. Get a little bit of a washy effect in here. I even like pulling some of this color up and letting the underneath pop through. And it's all about going back and forth, back and forth. I'm going a little off the beaten path here with this. With my piece that I'm creating from the sketchbook. But I'm liking what that's doing. And I did use that in the sketchbook, so I'm kind of needing to use that also in the larger piece that I'm working on, and I like how that's working out. So I'll keep referring back to this, but I'm gonna let what shows up here also work for me. So yeah, don't get married to exactly what you have going on here. You know, let some of the cool stuff, be free to let some of the other cool stuff show up and stay. And the more layers that you add on, the more interesting a piece becomes. Don't just stop at one layer and call it one and done. It's just more interesting the more layers that you add on. Because things start showing up that you hadn't planned on. Want to put some reflection onto the cloth. Onto the cloth from the vase. And don't get carried away with the drips. I don't like to get too carried away with drips. Not sure I like this blotchiness happening here. Okay, I'm gonna leave this alone and let it set up a little bit while I go up into the blue. Now, again, I can almost create, see what I can make with this messy palette that I have already. Got my Payne's Gray, which is a blue-black, really. I'm gonna add just a little bit of cerulean. And I'm working with a really small surface for a palette. I don't recommend doing this. Don't do as I say, not as I do. Want to brighten that blue up a little bit. And again, I'll just go in and block in my shapes. So I'm going to want to create some petals happening in here, some stems happening. Let's see. and paint around little things that you might think you might want to keep. You can paint over it later on if it doesn't work for you, but I'm seeing a flower right here. And by adding that green in yesterday, I already created the stem for that flower. There's another stem in there. Actually, another flower. I'm going to keep that right like this until I continue on a little bit. And it's just a matter of picking and choosing what stays and what has to go away. Now these lines make no sense. I kind of like them. I'm going to keep them for a moment until I decide where I'm going over here. Yeah, I don't really need them. I can use it just as a little pop-up there. And you get to make this garden up the way you want it to be. There's really no right or wrong way. You get to shape the flowers the way you'd like to see them. I would like to see more blue over on this side. Let me pull. I do like how much blue is going on over here. So the same, you see how filled in I made it with the colors I put on yesterday. I've just got to eliminate them down and not be afraid to do that. Always the hardest part. So let me just get in there and start doing it. Now, if there's things that you cover up, not a problem. You come back and go over and recreate them. Nothing is lost. It's kind of a weird looking thing in here, so let's just break that up a little bit. Now I'm going to go back and kind of redefine some of the pieces, some of the flowers that I've created, because I'm going to go back in with color again on the flowers. Can even add some variations of blue, because you don't want to paint the whole background the same color. You want variations. So I'm adding a little teal in with that blue. I'm going to darken up down towards the bottom. Not looking for perfect lines at all. So I'm going to come in on the top with a lighter blue. And the fun thing on the second and third and the additional layers is you can get some different effects that you got the first time around, because now you can dry brush over things and let other colors show up through, and it leaves a nice texture. Okay, I'm back. It's a couple days later, and I've gone over this background a bunch of times. I swear there's probably about 10 coats of paint underneath this background. And I'm loving it all because it really gives history and it really builds up the painting. So I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. I did go in and fill in my flowers a little bit up here. And there's a lot of things I could do. For instance, I could take some papers that I made on my jelly plate. And some of these are pretty darn bright. But I do like this one, and I like that one. These are a little bit too much for me, for what I want to do here. But these colors are in my journal page. So I could rip some of these out. Just rip some little chunks out. And just the indication of a petal. They don't have to be exact. Unless you want them to be. If you like exact, do that. You got to do you. Let's see, where do I want to pump up? This seems to be where I have a lot of my strongest colors going on, right here in the center. So I'm just going to put some medium on. And you can adjust these as you go along. I'll pump up the color a little bit. I just want a little dab right there. I don't throw much away. I use everything. Little scraps that I find that works, I will use them. And then I want to repeat that color in a couple places, like maybe over here. It just defines the petals a little bit better. And as you can see, literally, I am just ripping pieces of paper. But those little pieces of paper are really making a difference. Really pop those colors out a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry, because I want to come back and I want to use my oil pastels. But before I do that, while I'm letting that dry, I can come in. I have a Faber-Castell. This is a graphite aqua pencil. So I can come in and make some nice pencil marks with this. And this is my go-to with my with most of my drawings. I can come in and I like to just scribble. I especially like to scribble with my Stabilo. And I hold it really loosely and I work with it pretty loose because I know if I mess anything up, I can go back and wash it out with water. And it's kind of fun to work on them when you have wet medium on here because it starts to react to the medium. Now I'm only going to do a couple of these flower centers. The rest I'm going to leave alone. A few is nice. When you get too many going on, it starts to get a little much. And I like to go around and just define some of the flowers, some of the important flowers, not all of them. You know, it's one of those things, a little bit goes a long way. And I probably need to add something up here to pull these together. Maybe a little bit. And it doesn't have to be every single petal. Maybe you're only going to do a couple of them. Or maybe only little pieces of them. Okay, now I've got that happening. Let me go back with my, let's see, my small brush and activate some of that. Let me see what the aqua pencil does. It doesn't leave such a dark line. It's a lot more subtle than the Stabilo. Thing I like about the Stabilo, of course, is that it gives you that really nice watercolory effect. And you just want to keep the eye moving around the painting. So I've added little specks here and there of the Stabilo, just to kind of keep your eye going around. And I think I'm pretty done. The last thing I want to do is maybe add, I'm not sure this is dry enough, but I like to go in and add some scribbles with the flowers. And you can go around and add a little bit more definition with that as well. Again, not everywhere. Just pick out where you feel like it's going to do you some good. Keeping your eye moving around. And I also want to add in a little bit of this turquoise. Now, when you're using the oil pastel, remember that you're going to have to seal it before you top coat because the oil pastel never dries. I want to add some highlights in here. Okay, now you want to make sure that this is glass. it's going to pick up reflections of everything around it. So it's going to pick up a little bit of the orange. So you want to make sure you get some orange in there in the glass. And of course, I love this color in there, the teal. And I need a light color. I want a really light color, but I don't want white to add the highlights because everything is blue around it. So I want a little bit of the blue white. That makes a lot more sense. And I kind of want to scribble a little bit of a highlight onto this, but I don't know if it's going to read as well. Let's see if I have any white here. I think I'm going to call this done. I don't know how well that paint's not going to stick very well to that oil pastel, but there's just enough in there to indicate a light. Now let me see if I can find my reference photo. I look pretty close. There are some differences, but it's pretty darn close. So I can easily go back in now and sign it and call this one done. And as I say that, I may go in and make a few changes, but for the most part, you can see what I've done. I've just taken my scrapbook page, my journal page, and created it onto a canvas. And that's a really kind of a cool way. It is a very cool way to do it. And when you don't know what to paint, when you don't know what to draw or what to create, look at your art journals. That's where you're going to find it.